We continue now at the top of Daf Nun Heyam and Beis in Meseches Nedarim. This is Nedarim Daf 55b. On the previous summit, the Gemara was discussing what is meant by the term alalta. Originally, the Gemara had a question. Rava sent a question. Does alalta mean only the 5 grains, or does it include all kinds of crops? The answer came back that it includes all kinds of crops. And Rava said he already knew that it included all kinds of crops. What he really wanted to know was whether it includes the rent from houses and the rent from sfinos, from ships. Is that also included in the term alalta? And then Rav Yosef became angry because he said if Rava already knew the answer, why is he sending the question? So Rava went on Erev Yom Kippur to visit Rav Yosef, and Rav Yosef asked him, what is the meaning of the pasuk? Umi midbar matano, mi matana nachliel. And now Rav is in the middle of darshaning the pasuk, and he says, how do we know that if a person becomes arrogant, but then he does teshuvah, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will lift him back up again? Shenamar, like the pasuk says, kol gei yinaseh, all the valleys will be lifted up. And the Ran over here says, Now, even though this pasuk isn't written by the original pasuk we're discussing, that's the original pasuk, that's in the Torah, this is in the Nevi'im. Nevertheless, still it talks about this idea that HaKadosh Baruch Hu lowers a person like a valley, so now we talk about lifting him up from the valley. The point is, you lower yourself, you're going to be raised up, like the pasuk says. Some say that the idea over here is, Rav Yosef asked him to interpret that pasuk, and then Rava gave this interpretation. Rava was essentially saying he was doing teshuvah for his arrogance. And the Ran here says, in terms of the halacha, the question of Rava of whether the schar batim and schar sfinos are included in alalta, that's not answered. Therefore, if you're not sure whether you should collect from that rent, so you shouldn't collect, because we don't know, you shouldn't collect from the rent of the houses or the ships. The yad bal ashtar la tachtona, the hand of the person with the shtar, he has the lower hand. Avalagabi nedarim, but let's say it would be with regards to nedarim, naktin and l'chumra. Then you'd have to go l'chumra in terms of the meaning of the word v'chul and b'chlal, and everything would be included in the meaning of the word. And the Gemara continues, Tanya, we learned in a Braisa, hanoder min hadagan, if a person takes a neder not to have dagan, so aser af bepol hamitzur yavesh, he's aser even to have the Egyptian bean if it is dry, that is also included in dagan according to the Tosefta. Mutter balach, but it's mutter if it's moist, meaning if it's fresh, pol hamitzri, so then that is not included in dagan. Mutter, it's also mutter to have ba'orez, it's mutter to have rice, that's not included. Bechilka, betargis, uvetisni, chilka, targis, and tisni is talking about when you have grain, when you have wheat. Chilka is it's split into 2 parts, targis it's split into 3 parts, tisni is split into 4 parts. Those are all going to be mutter. Hanoder min peiros hashana. Let's say someone takes a neder from the fruits of the year. Aser b'chol peiros hashana. It's mutter. It's aser rather with all fruits of the year. That includes all fruits. However, umutter b'gediyim uv'telayim would be mutter with goats or sheep. We're talking about young goats, young sheep. Uv'chalav, uv'beitzim, uv'gozalos, and milk and eggs and chicks. All of that would not be included in peiros hashana. However, v'imamar gidule shana alayf, he says that which was raised, that which grew this year, I'm taking upon me, aser b'chulin, then those would be aser as well. Those are also considered gidulin, meaning gediyim, teloyim, chalav, beitzim, gozalos. Those are all considered to be gidulim. And the Gemara continues, hanoder min peiros haaretz. Let's say a person takes a neder not to have the fruits of the earth. Aser b'chol peiros haaretz. It's aser to have any fruits that grow from the earth. Umutter b'chmein upitrios. But it's mutter to have mushrooms or truffles. V'yamamar gidule karka alai. But if the person says that which grows from the earth is upon me, so aser b'kulim. Then it's aser in all of them. It's aser even in the mushrooms and the truffles. And the Gemara says, but we have a contradiction to this. It says, al davar she'in gidulo min aretz. If you have something that doesn't grow from the earth, omer sha'akol ni'eh bidvaro, you say the bracha of sha'akol. Betanya, we learned in a brayso, al hamelach v'al hazamis v'al kmein upitrios. If you're talking about salt, or brine, or mushrooms, or truffles, omer sha'akol ni'eh bidvaro. The bracha on all of these things is sha'akol ni'eh bidvaro. And so this brayso seems to imply that mushrooms and truffles, they don't grow from the earth, and we just said above that they are included in gidule karka. And the Gemara answers, Amar Abaya says, Mirba rovu me'ara. They do in fact grow from the ground, but meinak me'avira yanki v'lo me'ara. But in terms of their nutrients, their sustenance, that they get it from the air, they don't get it from the ground. And that's why it's a bracha of shahakol, but it is considered a gidule karka. It is considered something that grows from the ground. But the Gemara says, Vakatani al davar she'ein gidulam in arts, but doesn't it say something that doesn't grow from the earth? So it certainly sounds like it does not grow from the earth. And the Gemara says, Tani, instead you should change the text as follows, Al davar she'ein yonek min arts. If something doesn't take its nutrients from the earth, that's what you make on it a shahakol. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Hanoder min aksus, if someone takes a neder not to wear garments, mutter besak uv'yiriu v'chamila, would be mutter for him to wear sackcloth or sheets or coarse curtains, that would not be considered garments. Amar konim tsemer ola olai. Let's say a person says a konim, a neder, not to wear tsemer, not to wear wool. So mutter liz kasos begizet tsemer, would be mutter for him to wear wool fleece, because what he's really only referring to is wool fabric. Similarly, hapishtan ola olai. Let's say a person says flax, he's not going to wear flax. Mutter liz kasos ba'anitze pishtan. It would be okay for the person to cover himself up with flax that is in bundles. And the Mishnah continues, Rabbi Yehuda says, Hakol lefi hanoder, really everything goes by the context of the one making the neder. For example, says Rabbi Yehuda, To'an v'hizil, let's say a person is carrying a load, and he's sweating, v'yarecho kasha, and it smells bad. And Amr, and he says, Konim tsemeru pishtim ola ola, he says that I'm not going to carry tsemer and pishtim, so mutter leskasos, it would actually be mutter from to wear tsemer and pishtim, v'yasr lahavshal le'achorov. What would be yasr is from to throw it on his shoulder to carry it. It's clear from his context that he was talking specifically about carrying the items. And the Gemara says, Tanya, we learned in a brayso, hanoder min aksus, if someone takes a neder not to wear garments, mutter besak uv'yiriu v'chamila, it's mutter for him to wear sackcloth or sheets or curtains, v'yasr, but it's forbidden for him to wear bepunda, it's forbidden for him to wear a money belt, uv'piskia or a sash, uv'skortia, skortia will be explained, uv'katablia, he can't wear a leather spread, v'yanpalia, and he's not allowed to wear a leather sock, uplinya, and he's not allowed to wear a leather apron, umichnasayim v'kova, and he's not allowed to wear pants, and he's not allowed to wear a hat. And the Gemara says, "My iskorti." What is an iskorti? Amar Rabba bar Barchana. Rabba bar Barchana says, "Kituna desila." It refers to a tanner's apron again, which he's also not allowed to wear. And the Gemara continues, Tanya, we learned in a brayso, and this comes from a Tosefta Meseches Shabbos. Yotzim b'sakova v'skosova uv'yiriu v'chamila mimnei hageshamim. On Shabbos, a person can go out in a thick sackcloth or a thick blanket or a sheet or a curtain in order to protect himself from the rain. That would not be considered like carrying. That would be considered like a garment. Avalo b'teva v'lo b'kupa v'lo b'machseles mimnei hageshamim. But the person cannot go out with a box or a basket or a mat to protect himself from the rain. That would all be considered like carrying. Haroim yotzim besakim, the shepherds, they would go out in sackcloth on Shabbos. V'lo roim bilvadam, but not only the shepherds. Ela kol adam, really, any person can do that. Ela shedibru chachamim behova, just that the chachamim spoke about the typical case. And the Gemara continues that the Tudas, Rabbi Yehuda Omer hakol lefi hanoder v'chulu, Rabbi Yehuda says everything goes by the context of the person making the neder. And the Gemara says, Tanya, we learned in a brayso, Ketzad Amar Rabbi Yehuda hakol lefi hanoder. What did Rabbi Yehuda mean when he said that everything goes by the context of the person making the neder? Hayalavush tzemer v'heitzer. Let's say a person is wearing wool and it's causing discomfort. V'yamar konim tzemer ola olai, and he says a konim not to wear tzemer. So asur lilbosh, so it's forbidden to wear it. Umuter liton, but he would be allowed to carry it. Hayaton pishtan. Let's say the person is carrying flax. V'yizi, and he's sweating. V'yamar konim pishtan ola olai, and he says a konim not to have pishtan on him. Mutter lilbosh, then it would be mutter for him to wear it. V'yasur liton, but it would be forbidden for him to carry it. It's clear from the context that he's referring to carrying it as a load, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Nun Vav Amud Aleph.